No one held a vigil. No one cried. No one dared approach her bedside once the stench began seeping through the cracks of the castle walls. Catherine de' Medici, the uncrowned queen, mother of kings, France's rumored witch, was dying, rotting from the inside out. She had battled digestive issues for years, but in her final weeks, her body was decaying while still alive. Her abdomen bloated, her skin turned pale and waxy, and a sickening, putrid odor filled the air. The unmistakable scent of a body breaking down. Her bedchamber became unbreathable. They tried vinegar, herbs. Nothing worked, just fear. Servants rotated every few hours. Some fainted, others fled entirely. She no longer met with her ministers. She whispered only to her dead children. Blood filled her coughs. She twisted and groaned on sheets soaked with bodily fluids. Sometimes she lost control of her bowels, staining her bed, her gowns, and what was left of her dignity and her kingdom. No one reported to her anymore. No secrets were shared. Only the stench remained. When she finally died, if we can call that living death a true death, her decomposing body was shoved into a makeshift coffin. No funeral procession, no mass, no flowers. Catherine de' Medici, the woman who held an entire dynasty together with children, omens, and poison, was buried in disgrace. Like a curse, like a warning, this is her story. And believe me, you won't be able to look away. Florence, spring of 1519. In a city that gleamed on the surface but festered with corruption underneath, a baby girl took her first breath, already marked by misfortune. Her name was Catherine. Her mother, Maria de' Medici, died just days after giving birth. Her father, Lorenzo, Duke of Urbino, was already dying of syphilis. From the moment she opened her eyes, Catherine was alone, orphaned into one of the most powerful, hated families in all of Italy. People whispered in the streets, "That's the Medici girl, the child of death." Even her own relatives didn't want her. She became a pawn in the brutal games played between popes, kings, and bankers. Catherine was shuffled from convent to convent, raised by nuns, locked in cold rooms while bonfires of hatred burned across Florence, fueled by enemies of the Medici. When those enemies seized control of the city, Catherine was kidnapped. Some chroniclers claim they paraded her through the streets on a donkey, as the crowd spat insults. And yet, she survived. This child, raised on prayers and threats, learned to read shadows before she read books. She learned that faith was fragile, that promises shattered, and that obedience could be just as useful as a velvet gown. By age 14, her family made their next move. Catherine would be sent to France, married off to Henry of Orleans, the second son of King Francis I. No one cared that the French court looked down on her, that she was Italian, foreign accented, and came without a dowry fit for a princess. None of that mattered. What mattered was that they underestimated her. Catherine arrived in France with a small suitcase and a massive, burning resolve. She knew that this world wasn't built for girls like her, but she'd bend it to her will, twist it if needed, poison it if that's what it took. Because history doesn't remember the girls who weep. It remembers the ones who learn how to bite. And Catherine? She was about to step into a court crawling with snakes, ready to become the deadliest of them all. Catherine entered France carrying more suspicion than jewels. Italian, daughter of bankers, no royal blood, no stunning beauty. And to make things worse, her new husband didn't love her. Henry of Orleans had already given his heart to someone else, Diane de Poitiers, a noblewoman 20 years his senior, the woman who had raised him and seduced him. Diane was a living legend. Catherine was barely a teen. Still, the marriage proceeded. Catherine, queen by title only, had no claim on her husband's heart. The humiliations began quickly. Diane sat in the seat of honor at banquets. She received lavish gifts from the king. She even signed documents as if she were the legitimate wife. Catherine? She had just one job: produce heirs. But the years passed, and no pregnancy. The court buzzed with rumors. She's barren. It's a divine punishment. She's a witch. Desperate, Catherine turned to everything she could: prayers, potions, astrology, even folk remedies. Some claimed she drank the urine of pregnant animals. Others said she smeared warm cow dung on her belly to activate the womb. She slept with hot stones pressed to her pelvis to stimulate her blood, all for a child. And after 10 long years of marriage, it worked. She gave birth to Francis, her first of 10 children. And with that child came her silent revenge. Catherine realized something few others had grasped. Power doesn't always come from the king's bed. Sometimes it comes from the king's crib. From that moment on, Catherine began spinning her web. She remembered every slight. She watched her enemies. She learned how to survive in a court where every smile could be a blade. Diane would always be the favorite, but Catherine would be the mother of kings. And when her time came, she'd take everything that was hers. Because queens who are humiliated don't always cry. Some learn to wait. And Catherine was waiting, with her eyes wide open and her memory sharpened like a dagger. Destiny doesn't need a war. Sometimes, one misfired lance is enough. In 1559, a royal tournament was held to celebrate a wedding. King Henry II, Catherine's husband, was struck in the eye by a splinter from a lance. The wound festered. He died in agony. Diane de Poitiers, once adored, was cast out of court. Catherine, the long-dismissed wife, became the queen mother. Her son, Francis II, took the throne, just 15 years old, frail, easily manipulated. And for the first time, Catherine tasted real power. But France's court wasn't going to embrace her so easily. She was Italian. That alone was enough for them to call her a foreigner, a witch, an enemy. Rumors buzzed around her like flies. They said she spoke with the dead, consulted spirits, always wore a strange black stone around her neck. In truth, Catherine had brought with her Cosimo Ruggieri, a Florentine astrologer and alchemist. Together they studied the stars, the shadows, and the fates of those who stood in their way. They didn't need spells, just timing and fear. Catherine didn't deny the rumors. She didn't plead innocence. She preferred fear to do the talking. She built an astrological tower in the Louvre, consulted horoscopes before signing laws, spoke of planetary alignments like they were military strategies. Did she believe in magic? Maybe. Or maybe she just knew one simple truth. In a world of ignorance, mystery is more powerful than any sword. She didn't have to prove she had power. She only had to suggest it. Catherine's son, Francis II, didn't last long on the throne. He died young, just 16, from a severe ear infection. And once again, Catherine found herself at the center of the storm. She was now regent for her next son, Charles IX. Still just a boy, still easily swayed. But this time, no one could deny who truly held the reins of France. Catherine didn't wear a crown. She didn't command an army, but people began to fear her like they would a general or a ghost. She understood something her male rivals never could. Power doesn't always need to be loud. It doesn't require swords or shouting. Sometimes it whispers, behind curtains, between bed sheets, through locked doors. And so, Catherine created one of the most quietly devastating weapons in French history. They called it the Flying Squadron. But these weren't soldiers. They didn't carry blades or wear armor. They were women, young, beautiful, brilliant, trained to seduce, to listen, to extract secrets with a smile, and destroy with a kiss. Catherine handpicked them, trained them in etiquette, in dance, in conversation, in politics, but most of all, in observation. At royal banquets, they sparkled like living jewels. In chambers, they were warmth and shadows. Some men desired them, others feared them, but no one ever really knew whom they served. In truth, they served one woman, the Queen Mother. One of the most dangerous among them was Charlotte de Sauve. Catherine positioned her like a chess piece, right next to Henry of Navarre, the Protestant prince who would one day become king. Charlotte seduced him, gained his trust, got him talking, names, plans, confessions, and then she moved on, to his political rival, the Duke of Alençon. Both men fell for her. Both were manipulated. Both were too busy fighting over Charlotte to notice Catherine pulling the strings. While the men dueled over a mistress, the throne spun safely beneath the fingers of the uncrowned queen. Of course, not everyone believed the stories. Some thought the tales of naked women serving wine and seductive dances to distract enemy diplomats were Protestant propaganda, exaggerated slanders. But Catherine, she never denied a word, because rumors were part of the spell. And in a court thick with incense and betrayal, sex became more powerful than any edict. While men fell into the arms of the Flying Squadron, Catherine built alliances, collected secrets, and steered the future of France, without ever dirtying her hands. All it took was a single whisper, and a woman brave enough to carry it. But Catherine wasn't just playing games of love. She knew when it was time to kill. The gift arrived in a delicate purple box. Inside, a pair of exquisitely embroidered gloves, laced with golden thread, perfumed with ambergris and something else. Jeanne d'Albret, Queen of Navarre, received the present politely. She smiled. She inhaled the scent. She wore them. 2 days later, she was dead. The official cause was tuberculosis, a lung infection. But in the palace halls, no one spoke of illness. They spoke of Catherine. Because those gloves, they had come from her. Jeanne d'Albret was a threat. She was the mother of Henry of Navarre, a leading Protestant figure. Soon, she would be the mother-in-law to Catherine's daughter, Margaret of Valois. The marriage was supposed to forge peace between Catholics and Huguenots. But Jeanne was fierce, defiant, dangerous, and Catherine knew something every great player understands. When an alliance threatens your control, remove the peace, elegantly. Rumors ignited like wildfire. Some said Catherine's Florentine perfumer had laced the gloves with a poison absorbed through the skin. Jeanne died coughing up blood, her hands still fragrant with floral perfume. Was it true? No one could prove it. But Catherine never bothered denying it. She didn't need to confess to a crime. She only needed people to believe she was capable of one. From that day on, every gift from her chambers was met with dread. Every perfume smelled like a warning. Every jewel could be a trap. Catherine had turned elegance into a threat. She no longer needed poison, only the suggestion of it. And the court began to walk on glass, because how do you fight a queen who can kill you with a present? Jeanne was buried. The royal wedding went ahead as planned, and Catherine moved her pawns forward. But what no one realized was that Jeanne's death was just the opening act, a delicate prelude to the true horror that was coming. Because Catherine de' Medici wasn't just the mother of kings, she became the mother of corpses. Francis II had died young, fragile, soft-spoken. His reign had been a breath. Then came Charles IX, a firework of a boy, bright and unstable, until St. Bartholomew's Day, a massacre, a bloodbath. Thousands of Protestants butchered in the streets of Paris under the cover of darkness. The king signed the order, but it was Catherine who orchestrated the timing, the fear, the pressure. Afterward, Charles was never the same. He heard voices, locked himself in his room, tore his hair out, spoke to phantoms. One night, he spat blood onto the stone floor of the Louvre. He died at 23. Catherine barely flinched. Death no longer surprised her. It merely shuffled her chessboard. Her last surviving son was Henry III, brilliant, cultured, and deeply hated. He was accused of being weak, too feminine, too indulgent in his male favorites. But Catherine stood by him. She advised, she protected, she governed in his absence. Still, even mother and son began to fracture. France was unraveling. Religious wars dragged on. The economy bled. Catherine aged. Her once vibrant skin shriveled like forgotten parchment. Her stride slowed. Her eyes still watched, but the fire behind them dimmed. Her allies died. Her enemies died. Even her beloved grandson passed away. Catherine, the serpent, the witch, the mother queen, was left behind. The palace she once ruled like a chessboard became her mausoleum. The surviving children no longer heeded her voice. But Catherine wasn't finished. Not yet. Not until her final move was made. Catherine de' Medici died in 1589. She was 70 years old. Her body, ravaged by illness, wasted away. Her soul, many believed, had turned to ash long before her final breath. She did not live to see her last son, King Henry III, assassinated just months later, a death that closed the book on a dynasty she had clung to with clawed fingers, maternal will, and blood-stained strategy. She died alone. Her body was buried without fanfare. No cortege, no grand farewell, no voices raised in prayer. For many, it was the fitting end of a sorceress, a manipulator, a queen of shadows. But Catherine did not disappear. Her presence lingered, not as a saint, nor as a villain, but as a silhouette cast across the cracked mirror of French history. Yes, they called her a poisoner. Yes, they claimed she ruled through manipulation, terror, and death. She was blamed for orchestrating France's bloodiest religious massacre, for turning her sons into fragile kings and broken men. But what the world often forgets is that she did more than destroy. She transformed. That flying squadron of beautiful spies? They didn't just seduce, they danced. Catherine was the first to create choreographed spectacles, elaborate performances with music, poetry, and stage design. These weren't mere entertainments. They were statements of power, of order, of cultural dominance. This was the birth of court ballet, the precursor to modern ballet as we know it. While political chaos tore France apart, Catherine filled the court with something no sword could slice: wonder. At her events, over 300 performers could be seen in a single night. There were fireworks, exotic animals, actors reciting ancient verse, dancers in shimmering costume. Foreign ambassadors returned home wide-eyed, reporting not a dying kingdom, but a dazzling one. France, the fractured, had become France, the eternal, at least for a moment, thanks to the stagecraft of a queen without a crown. Catherine understood, better than anyone, that a kingdom cannot be held together by force alone. It needs symbols, it needs beauty, it needs stories. She was a patron of the arts, of architecture, of alchemy. Her court was a Renaissance dream, or a nightmare wrapped in silk, depending on whom you asked. Even her perfumes, the ones whispered to be laced with death, outlived her. Some of them are still crafted today, inspired by the mysterious formulas once used by her Florentine chemists. Catherine ruled not just with poison, but with style. Her legacy isn't written in the names of her sons, most of whom died young, lost, or broken. It's etched into the stones of the Louvre, into the echoes of music halls, into the pages of scripts and scores and scandalous court tales. Yes, she was feared, perhaps rightfully so, but she was also victorious. She held a fractured kingdom together for over 3 decades without an army, without a throne, without the love of her people. She governed through whispers, warnings, and wonder. And in the end, though she died forgotten, her shadow never quite faded. Because when we speak of dark queens, of cunning mothers, of women who rule not from above but from within, we still speak of Catherine, not as a heroine, not even as a villain, but as a warning. A woman who clawed her way through loss, humiliation, exile, and betrayal, and came out holding a nation in her bare, bleeding hands. A woman who knew how to wait, how to watch, how to strike when no one else even saw the blade. A woman who governed without a crown, and proved you don't need one to reign. And if this journey through the past left your spine tingling like it did ours while telling it, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who still thinks history is written only by the winners. Tell us, where are you watching from? The US, Canada, the UK? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned for more tales that history tried to bury. Because some shadows never fade, they just wait to be remembered.